All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today is January 18th, 2023. The purpose of this general workshop by Imperial County Air Pollution is to discuss permitted burning practices that we manage here in Imperial County. If we can put up the PowerPoint slide.
Real quick, Chris, if you can introduce yourself, and I'll introduce myself, and we'll go ahead and start the presentation.
Yeah. So my name is Chris Moncarte. I'm an air pollution control specialist here with Imperial County. I work under the compliance division and help administering different programs here with APCD. I've also served as an inspector, so I have some on-field experience as well as administrative experience.
And my name is Thomas Brinkerhoff. I'm the Compliance and Enforcement Division Manager here for the Air Pollution Control District in Imperial County. And thank you for attending. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into the presentation that Mr. Plancart has put together on the subject matter to better educate our public and the community on our rules and regulations on open burning and agricultural burning practices.
And I think you can share if you click on that, the one just to the right,
That one.
right there, it will do full screen. Should be full screen.
There we go. Go ahead.
All right, so again, this is permitted burning in Imperial County. And just some housekeeping, some Zoom rules. This presentation is being recorded, so it can be referenced at a later time as educational material. It'll be posted on our website and on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions during this Zoom, you can submit questions through the chat feature. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have time open to answer any more open-ended questions. The objective of this presentation, after this presentation, you should understand APCD's evaluation process, how we determine a burn day status with our compliance staff. Also how to identify APCD's rules and regulations pertaining to open burns, agricultural burns, and prescribed burns. Identify the agencies that we work with here at the Air District to coordinate the burns that are permitted throughout our county. Identify some resources that are available to you as a community member if you encounter a potential illegal burn or a troublesome burn. And also alternatives to burning, such as disposing waste, green waste, and waste to reduce air pollution. So we'll get started with how we evaluate a burn day here with our compliance division. We have a staff of 4 inspectors who all take turns on reviewing the weather data. So when each day they review CARB, the California Air Resource Board, their burn day designation, they make a recommendation for each air basin based on weather data that they're analyzing. And so they'll either say, yes, it's a burn day, it's a marginal burn day, or no burn day. Once they take that, once our local air district sees that, they use that as a starting point, and then they'll check our local air quality. And here we have 5 air quality monitors throughout the county that we then check to see recent readings and see how different parts of the county are. And that'll also help if we're having air quality with high particulate matter above 100, we might be cautious to call it a burn day. If we see good weather conditions and good air quality, we're more inclined to call it a burn day.
Yeah, one other thing to add, well, as Chris is referring to these monitors, these are our regulatory monitors throughout the north to south urban vein of the county. So we have our northernmost monitoring station up in Island, and then subsequently over Westmoreland, Raleigh, El Centro, all the way down to Calexico. These are regulatory monitors that are in our network and are connected to our website, which will be in our website later. And you can access it there. These are separate from community-based monitors that some of you all may be familiar with, such as the Ivan Air Network or Purple Air monitors that some of you may be using or have heard of too.
Right.
And if you
yeah. So after they look at the air quality monitors, They then prepare a weather report using the National Weather Service. Through the National Weather Service, there's several modules that you can run to look at specific areas. Here, we look at wind, speed and direction and timing. For optimal burning, you do want some moderate, low winds in order to allow for some dispersion. So you're looking at wind direction, wind speed. You're looking at humidity. You don't want too much moisture and you don't want too dry of air. So you are looking at moisture levels, especially here in Imperial County, where in the summer months, things do get very humid. And then most importantly, you look at the mixing height or the barometric pressure, which you can see pictures of on the slide. You want the height of the pressure to exceed 3,000 feet, and that allows any smoke from a burn to get up to higher levels and allow for transient transport winds to allow to move and allow for airflow at a higher level. And typically after the morning hours is when you start to see the pressure elevate. And that's why you'll normally see burn hours on a good burn day around 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So after they go through these checks on the morning, every morning, they'll recommend a burn day status to the APCO and the compliance division manager by approximately 8:15 a.m. And they'll make the determination whether it's a burn day, a marginal burn day, or no burn day. Next slide.
Well, before we go to the next slide, there's a couple of images here just to highlight as we are in the winter season right now. We do get a lot of days where there's an inversion where you have the warmer air that's like a band of warmer air that's trapped closer to the surface. And therefore, it does not allow greater dispersion to happen in the plumes, whether they are from an incidental fire or a scheduled burn of an open burn for residences or agricultural burns. So you have different meteorological conditions based on what could be going on, not just storms, but seasonal, and just something to consider. And we have some images there for you to look at. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide.
So after the burn day status is determined, that information is relayed to our front office staff. If you're wanting to conduct an open burn or an agricultural burn, you can call our front office, our main office line. That phone number is on the screen. Or you can also check our website on our homepage, and right underneath the main banner on our homepage, usually by 8:30 a.m., the burn day status is updated, and that way you can check quickly before you try to schedule a open burn or an ag burn. And you can see our website up on top there. So then after, next slide, after we have determined the burn day, we then send an initial notification. There's an email list that we have here, a fax list that a notification is sent here locally to our Imperial County fire chief and firefighters. It's also notified to the sheriff department, all of these city fire departments throughout Imperial County, all the way up to Salton City, all the way down to Calexico. Some tribal communities nearby are notified, as well as some other federal, state agencies. And these are all agencies that want to be in the know if, in case they see a burn, to know that it's not an emergency situation and it's something that's been permitted and reviewed that day by Imperial County, APCD. And on the screen there, you can see an example of the list that we send throughout the day. The list notifies them what town, the contact person, and the address of that burn that was permitted. And that way they can do a initial check if they need to visit the fire, or they can have a contact in case they need to investigate the fire. So we have an open line of communication, especially with the Imperial County Fire Department, when we're permitting and allowing these burns on a regular basis.
And up there on that screen, on this slide, you'll see that there's usually 3 different designations that could be the option for the day. You'll have your no burn day if the weather conditions or quality is not favorable. We have marginal green waste only, which means we designate it for only residential open burning for that day. And then a burn day, which was not only allows green waste to be burned by residents that are outside of the towns, townships, and cities, but also allows agriculture burning to take place through our ag burn program.
All right, and so the three basic permitted burning that we allow here with Imperial County ICAPCD. The first is open burning, which you see a picture there. The second is agricultural burning, and the third prescribed burning. Underneath there, I labeled the rules that apply to each of these burning procedures. For open burning, we have Rule 421. It's a rule that we have here. It's available on our website, and it details what's allowed with an open burn. There's also the California Health and Safety Code that applies to open burning, which talks about not allowing disposal of waste by an outdoor fire. For agricultural burning, the main rule that we have here is Rule 701. Again, available on our website. We have Policy 34 and Policy 37, which talk about the procedures for scheduling an ag burn and the good neighbor policy. And then there's also the California Health and Safety Code 48150 and 41855. Those talk about how ag burning is regulated here in the state of California. It's not prohibited, and how meteorological data determines ag burn status. And then finally, prescribed burning. It's more common in counties that have a lot of forest, national forest, local forest, but still applies here. And Title 17 of the Public Health California Code of Regulations talks about prescribed burning as a method of reducing hazards and wildfire here in the state of California. So we'll talk about the general do's and don'ts about open burning, which probably applies to the majority of the audience who watch this video. So the purpose of open burning is disposing wood waste, trees, brush from a property, and it's a method to reduce a fire hazard on a property. And these types of burns should only occur. The waste should only be on the property that it originated. So it's not a way of, it's not a matter of collecting piles from different properties. It's just cleaning up one property. There's a couple photo examples there of two good examples of an open burn, and then two bad examples of an open burn. To conduct an open burn, you have to call our office and obtain a daily burn authorization. Once you get permission, you get the permit, it's a burn day. You have to ignite that pile during approved burn hours. Like we mentioned earlier, each burn day has their determined burn hours. The burn has to begin during that time, and it must be terminated by sunset of each day. During the burn, somebody must be attending the pile to prevent any hazards. The material must be, again, dry and free of plastic, metal, and trash. No burn barrels. So in the past, people did use burn barrels, but that's not a safe practice anymore. And the burn piles cannot be larger than 10 by 10 feet and 5 feet high, and that's just to prevent a fire from getting out of hand and becoming uncontrollable, where the person tending to it can't monitor the burn. And finally, the property that is burning, it must be outside of city limits. And on the next slide, I'll show you an example of that. Some precautions when conducting these open burns: you want to create a boundary around the pile to keep it from drifting into other parts. You want to position it away from power lines, from structures, from trees, so that it stays controlled. You want to have a water source, even if it's a water hose originating from the house. And if at any point the fire gets out of hand, we strongly urge you call fire department to go and help with the open burn. Is there anything I missed there?
No, I think that covers it. We'll get into some more details in subsequent slides.
Okay.
But one thing to point out: so when a resident calls in to determine and check with us if it's a burn day and get the authorization, you'll be given a unique authorization number by our office that's unique to your scheduled or your requested burn at your resident. And there's no fee for this. Okay, this is separate from from our agricultural burn program, where there is a formal permit application and review process.
Okay, yeah, the rule again that covers open burning is Rule 421. And that's what we enforce and follow with our inspectors and our compliance division. Here on the slide, there's two of the main rules that apply. Rule 421B, no person shall use an open outdoor fire for the purpose of burning petroleum waste, debris, tires, tar, wood waste, or for metal salvage. And these materials shall be ignited only with an approved ignition device. So again, when we're out patrolling, we're ensuring that these piles are only dry green waste. Some exceptions to this open burning, again, wood waste is allowed to be burned. If a firefighter or public employee has an order to conduct a burn for safety reasons, that's also allowed. If there's a right-of-way clearing by a public entity, that's also allowed, but APCD needs to be notified. And then if the burn is for cooking, grilling, or staying warm, then that's also an exception of a permitted burn. On the screen here, I have photos of burns that did not go as planned, and they did not follow the procedures that we talked about when it comes to 10 by 10 feet, staging it away from areas with brush or areas with power poles. When that happens, usually the fire department has to get involved and go and tend to the fire. So that's why we strongly urge these 10 by 10 piles for safety reasons. Another thing I didn't mention in the last slide is that if the property is within city limits, it's not allowed. And if it's outside of city limits, it must be more than a mile from a school or a mile and a half.
You mean in terms of being scheduled for that day?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a policy in our rules, which is policy 34. And that goes over staff procedures and procedures for clients in terms of how we go about determining the final acreage, the amount that is permitted per day in each quadrant of Imperial County. We separate the county into 4 equally sized quadrants. And it also dictates to us the procedures for scheduling special burns, what we call special burns, which are within 2 miles or less of sensitive receptors. Sensitive receptors could be school sites, towns, cities, or other areas where residents will be around in large numbers. But so if you are within 2 miles of a school site, but otherwise outside of city limits, then we would be prioritizing your burn and scheduling your burn subject to being burn day on a day where school is not in session or there's no school activity happening on the school grounds.
Right. Yeah, so there's I put an image there of an Imperial, and that's an example of where we would, if a burn request came in, we would look to see the location, the how proximate it is to the city, and then decide if we issue a burn permit for that day. And then, so the second permitted burning that we mentioned is agricultural burning. The purpose of agricultural burning is to help remove crop residue after harvesting grains. Here we see a lot with wheat. It also helps remove weeds, prevent disease, and control pests. And it's a practice here in Imperial County. The requirements for agricultural burning: the applicant must put in an application with our office to request a permit. Once they've received a permit and have provided all the important information about their agricultural field, they then must submit a ag submission form, which schedules and explains their intent to burn. They provide the acreage, the crop, canal gate, all that information, and the the farmer will be contacted by our staff to schedule this burn, and the staff goes through the daily weather, and if it's favorable weather and a burn day, and the winds are favorable for that location where they intend to burn, then they will schedule that burn. If it's a special burn, like we mentioned, if it's near a city or near a sensitive receptor, a highly traveled road, one of our inspectors from our enforcement staff will go before the burn starts and confirm that the weather data matches the local actual weather conditions, and then either give a acknowledgement and a green light to burn, or will postpone the burn if weather's not favorable, right? And then again, we have a policy, like we mentioned earlier, policy 34. Prioritization is given to burns for smaller acreage burns, ideally 70 acres or less in size. These burns are plotted amongst 4 quadrants separated throughout the Imperial County. And like we said, within 2 miles of school, it'll be prioritized for weekends when schools are not in session or holidays. We also have a video that we have on our YouTube and on our website that has agricultural burning in more detail that you can review. Rule 701, ag burning is what we follow and enforce with our enforcement staff. These are the basic rules that we enforce, the most common, I would say. So no person shall knowingly set an agricultural burn unless they have a valid permit. So you must have a permit. No permit should be valid in a day in which the Air Resource Board or the Air District does not call it a burn day. All agricultural waste to be burned, it must be free of tire, rubbish, debris. So an example of this would be, sometimes these fields will have cardboard from packing, some waste that was dumped, or plastic from plastic mulching. So you want to ensure that the field is free of any plastic, cardboard waste. The next rule is Rule 70188, which is all agricultural waste shall be ignited by an approved ignition device. So here commonly we see propane fuel torches as an ignition device. You can also use a traditional match. What we don't want to see is diesel fuel that's poured, or any technique that would create more of an environmental hazard or air pollution. So there's a couple photos there of successful agricultural burns.
And again, these are all components, subsections, requirements of Rule 701, agricultural burning, which like any of our rules involving burning or any of our regulatory rules are all available on our website under our rules and regulations section.
All right, and then finally, prescribed burning. As mentioned earlier, prescribed burning is more common in counties here that have more amount of forest. But here in Imperial County, we do have a lot of riverways. We have the Salton Sea. We have a lot of state land and federal lands that are managed by Bureau of Land Management and California state parks that want to preserve the area. So the purpose of prescribed burning is to reduce hazard, clear trees, control disease, improve rangeland for wildlife habitat, and to restore natural ecosystems. It's an important tool here in California to manage fire and reduce wildfire. And the procedures for conducting a prescribed fire are very similar to open burning and ag burning. You contact APCD, you schedule with one of our compliance division employees to submit a plan, a smoke management plan through PFERS. PFERS is a California state website for prescribed fires. Once you make your plan, you submit a request to ignite and conduct the prescribed burn. And then once the burn is completed, you report the total acreage that actually burned, and then that process is complete. So here we see it a lot, again, with Bureau of Land Management. We see it in the winter months when they're doing wildlife preservation. So it's not a very frequent occurrence here, but it is something that our district manages for anyone wanting to conduct a prescribed burn. And then just some little additional information that applies to all of these permitted burning procedures. I noted there that in 2021, 24 notice of violations were issued by our enforcement staff for not following burn rules. And these apply to open burns and agricultural burns. Again, so our enforcement staff is out throughout the day patrolling, and if they receive any complaints or if they during their patrolling see a questionable burn, they will issue notice of violations for not following the right rules. So then alternatives to open burns, which we first discussed, that includes mulching, composting, or local disposal facilities. Here in Imperial County, we have Imperial Landfill, Bertic Landfill, and 7 county landfills throughout. There's Lexico, Hopeville, Nyland, just to name a few. If you need a list of all the landfills, you can check Imperial County's Public Works website. And then another alternative to agricultural burning would be to disc the fields, and you can apply for emission reduction credits. That's how would I describe an emission reduction credit?
So these are given, provided you have an ag burn permit and you're going through the process and you have your fields that you would otherwise normally look towards burning. You can instead apply for receiving an emission reduction credit, which basically is a credit for otherwise the pollution that would be caused, that would be created for igniting and burning that field. And that credit is then given out, a certificate's given, which is yours to have. There is a certain timeline shelf life for that credit. And we as an air district manage the bank for agricultural emission reduction credits. We don't set the pricing. But we manage the transactions that happen between the credit holders and those that are seeking credits that they may need in order to help them offset emissions from their project in their facility, or to settle any compliance actions between the air district and their business.
Yep. All right, and then finally, I wrote here, if you want to report a complaint, you can always report a complaint to our to Imperial County Air Pollution Control District via our website. On our website, you can go to our homepage under compliance, and you can always report a complaint if you see a suspicious burn that's happening on a no burn day, outside of burn hours, or maybe if you expect or see that the burn might have waste, illegal waste, you can report it through our website. You can also call our main office phone line, 442-265-1800. You can report the complaint there, and we have a policy that within 24 hours, one of our staff will begin to investigate that potential illegal burn. And then if a citation, a violation has to be issued, it will be issued. These complaints, you can get notified of the result of the complaint, or you can choose to remain anonymous if you want to report an anonymous complaint. But the Air District will investigate any potential illegal burn.
And again, our website is apcd.imperialcounty.org, and that's where you can see right on our main website, there is a link to report any complaints, as well as our phone number listed again, if you wish to report it in that manner.
So yeah, that about wraps it up. That's on the screen here. We have our contact information. If you have more questions about open burning, ag burning, prescribed burning, you're more than welcome to call Thomas, myself. We both are here in compliance and deal with this on a daily basis. So our emails are there on the screen.
And our addresses are listed: 150 South 9th Street here in El Centro, California. We're located around the corner of 9th Street and State Street, just behind the Imperial County Courthouse and right next to Public Works. We're open from 8 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. So you can always stop on by. If you have any questions about our burn programs, give us a call. Here to happy to help and to provide further education as needed. So with that wraps up this workshop. And we appreciate those viewing. And again, any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Otherwise, anything else to add, Chris?
I think that sums it up pretty good.
Okay, so that wraps us up. We'll be concluding this workshop now. Everybody have a great day. Thank you.